We start out this evening tracking the tropics. The National Weather Service out with their new hurricane forecast. And they are predicting an above average season starting June 1st. Federal forecasters predicting 13 to 19 total storms, named storms. That includes tropical storms in addition to hurricanes. 6 to 10 of those are expected to grow to hurricane strength, and 3 to 5 are forecast to be major storms. The director of the National Hurricane Center reminds us that any tropical system can bring its own devastation.
I've said this for decades. There's no such thing as Hurricane Justa. And the Weather Service, being a NOAA, being a part of the WMO committee that names storms, I'll make sure we'll never have a Hurricane Justa. There's no such thing as Justa Cat 1. There's no such thing as Justa Cat 2, Justa Cat 3. Every one of them are different. The bigger the storm, the slower the storm, the more the impact. I don't care the category.
Several factors went into the forecast, including hotter than normal ocean temperatures and a weak wind shear that would otherwise tear storm systems apart before they can become hurricanes. News 15's Michael Yoshida gives us a closer look at the added challenges forecasters are facing this season.
The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration forecasting a busy Atlantic hurricane season ahead.
We're predicting an above average season once again, 2025. Above average.
NOAA predicts 13 to 19 named storms. Of those, 6 to 10 are forecast to become hurricanes, including 3 to 5 major hurricanes, Category 3 or above, between June 1st and November 30th.
Prepare now and stay ready throughout the season.
The outlook comes amid a series of Trump administration cuts to NOAA, which includes the National Weather Service, slashing funding for weather and climate research, and reducing staff. NWS losing nearly 600 employees over the past several months.
Cuts to staffing, cuts to funding, cuts to the ability to do that job just puts more stress on the forecasters and on the meteorologists.
Meteorologist Chris Vygotsky says we've come a long way in our ability to predict when and where a storm will hit. But cuts are reducing the number of weather balloon launches and hurricane hunter flights that provide critical information to forecasters. And without enough data, it becomes more difficult for communities to prepare.
Having a really accurate forecast goes a long way to keeping people safe, making sure that the people in the greatest threat area are able to take actions to protect their lives and property.
But Vygotsky says, despite the challenges, the job will still get done.
We're going to keep doing what we do as meteorologists, and that's monitor the weather and monitor the forecast and get those warnings out there.
Michael Yoshida, News 15.
And now let's bring in Storm Track 15 Chief Meteorologist Doppler Dan Romano.
Dan, let's talk about what this forecast could mean for us here in Acadiana.
Yeah, there are some details within that, within this upcoming forecast that we're looking at that weren't included. And we're going to break down some of those things. First and foremost, we're looking at relatively neutral, what we call an ENSO. So you might have heard the term La Nina, El Nino. This year we expect it to be somewhat in the middle, if anything, a little bit on the closer side to La Nina. And that means that we are looking at weaker trade winds, and that's what it usually correlates. We're also looking at the West African monsoon to be fairly active, and that's where a lot of the Atlantic activity emanates from. Here in the Gulf, off the Gulf, that might not necessarily be the case, but keep in mind we're looking at the entire Atlantic basin. Now there's also going to be a northern shift in the African waves, and that usually tends to stronger storms. That might be good news for us here in the Gulf because, again, the far north, the more north those storms come off the coast, the less of a likelihood they make it all the way to the Gulf. That said, again, we're looking at about a 60% chance that we are looking at an above average tropical season. That's according to the National Hurricane Center. About a 30% chance that we'll end up right around average. And for a lot of folks out there, I think we're all hoping that, well, the worst, I don't want to say worst case, but basically the lowest opportunity would be a 10% chance that we're looking at a below average season. That's what we're hoping for.